There are 5 things that I have noticed that most homeschoolers, when they first start homeschooling, really struggle with. And I really struggled with them when I started, and so I want to talk to you about these 5 things and how to overcome them. The first one is a lack of confidence. When we first decide to homeschool, there's something that caused it. Maybe COVID caused it and you didn't really have a choice. Or maybe you decided to because your child was being bullied or they just weren't learning in that environment or something was wrong. And so you decided that homeschooling was the preferred choice, at least for a while. Almost immediately, we all struggle with this idea that we can't do it, we're not good enough, we don't know how to do this, and we weren't trained for this, we didn't choose this until this one moment, and this crisis does not qualify us. And so we feel really a total lack of confidence. The cure to this is really to take a step back and realize that as great as the teachers in the public school were for your kids, nobody knows your child as much as you do. Nobody cares about your child as much as you do. Nobody watches your child with the intensity that you do. You are aware of things that they did as a baby that no teacher would ever get. You can see patterns in their lives that nobody else is going to see. You have the inside track when it comes to your child. And a lot of times we don't even know that we have this. We think, I'm not watching my kid, I'm not doing any of this, but you do. This is something that you've automatically been doing and you're just not paying attention to it. This is something that you bring as a mom that nobody else can bring. And so when things get hard, and they're going to get hard no matter where your child sits for his education, when they get hard, you're going to have a teacher who will throw, these are the tools I have to throw at it, or you're going to have you who says, this is my child and I care more than anybody else cares about this child. I want to find the solution for this child in this situation. Your investment in them as a person will get you through this. You are the perfect person to be this child's educator. You don't have to do it all. I outsource a lot of things. You don't have to know it all. I get a lot of information from a lot of places, but you do have to know that you are the perfect person to teach your child because you are the one who cares the most about this process. And the principle there is that you as the parent are responsible for your child's education. So if you decide that public school is the best place for this to happen, that's great. If you decide that homeschool is the best or a private school is the best, that's great. But the point is, the principle, the underlying rule, you are in charge because you know best how to educate your child. You know what their needs are, and you're going to go to work to meet those needs in a way nobody else will. The second thing that we really struggle with when we first start homeschooling is we don't know how to proceed. We make this big decision and we're like, okay, here we go. We're going to, face the world and conquer all of our dragons. It's going to be marvelous. And then we get into it and we think, I don't know how to teach grammar. I don't know how to teach writing. I don't know, what curriculum should I buy and how do I do this? And it's completely overwhelming. One of the things that you need to know is that there are a lot of options out there, many, many options, from unschooling all the way to the other end of the spectrum. You can do public school in your house. Many, many options. You do not have to do a specific way. You just have to choose what you want to do. So take the time at the beginning and maybe even just let your kids detox from school a little bit and play games or read books or whatever while you get into it and really figure out what the options are. I suggest HECOA. It's HECOA and it stands for Home Educators Council of America or something like that. And they have these online conferences and they're free. So you can go and listen to whichever of the presentations you're interested in, and then for 24 hours, you can just listen to that for free. After the 24 hours, you can buy their subscription and be able to watch it whenever, but I like going to their online conference and just watching the ones that I'm interested in during that 24-hour period. I have found more resources in that one conference than I have anywhere else. That is a super powerful resource that I use to just say, what's out there? I learned math programs. I learned special needs programs. I learned about reading and about time blocking and about well-educated heart and well-trained mind, and lots of different techniques and approaches are all thrown at you in this conference. And it kind of makes your brain explode a little bit. There's a lot going on there, but it's really helpful to just see what your options are to be able to make that decision. And that takes place, I believe, in September is their Not Back to School Summit, and it's really powerful. I really encourage you to take that. The third thing that we do as homeschoolers when we first start that is not a good idea is that we decide that we can do it on our own. We think, okay, I am the best person to teach my child. I know what I need to do. I know how to fix this. And I'm going to choose all the best things, all the best resources, and we're going to go and I'm going to make this happen. And it doesn't take very long before we realize that this is really hard. And all the people in your life that love you but don't know what you're doing or why you're doing this maybe smile at you and think, okay, you're crazy. The problem here is that nobody can understand how very difficult this is except people who are going through it. And if you do try to talk to people and say, hey, I'm having a really hard time, my kids aren't listening to me, I can't keep my house clean, this is really overwhelming, oftentimes you will get the response, why don't you quit? Because it's really hard for people to understand that you can have a really hard time with something and love it all at the same time. You can really dislike it and love it all at the same time. And so you need to go have a group of people who understands that. Co-ops in your area can be really helpful. Online groups can be very helpful. Facebook groups are very helpful. Or just people in your community that are already homeschooling. And they don't even have to do anything. You don't have to go on field trips together, but just have somebody that you can talk to and say, this is hard, or do you know any resources, or can you help me through this? How do I get my kid into high school or into college? Leaning on the community is really, really key, because when you homeschool, it is a whole family thing and you need support for yourself and not just for your kids. The fourth thing that we do is that we feel very locked into a curriculum. When we finally get there and we're like, oh, the good and the beautiful, or I'm totally going to do K-12, or I know precisely what I'm going to do, then you get started. And for the first 3 months, it's wonderful. And then things start happening. The kids get sick. You have a baby. You have other issues come up, and suddenly you're off time. And as the year is starting to get closer and closer to the end, you're not going to finish this curriculum, and you start feeling like a failure. You feel like, oh, I didn't get it all done. In the book, Teaching from Rest, and I can't remember the author of that book, but she says that curriculum is all the things that you use to build an education for your child. If you're using a textbook as part of your curriculum, wonderful. If you're using field trips as part of it, wonderful. If you're using projects, that's great. If you're using, other opportunities for them to serve or try things out on their own, that's great. If you have a lot of time for them to just discover, that's great. Don't be so stuck on whatever you have purchased that you feel like you have to get all of that done, because everything you do is a part of the curriculum and you've got to have time for all of that. Put really quickly, you are not going to get everything done in the curriculum. If you buy it, you won't get it all done. That does not make you a failure. It just makes you normal. You're going to have other things that are not built into that curriculum, and it's building that educational experience. You are creating the curriculum. Use whatever tools you need to be able to make it be the best curriculum for you and for your kids. Okay, last thing. The fifth thing that we struggle with is that we do not have the time. Nature hates a vacuum, right? Whatever you were doing with your life before you decided to homeschool was taking up all of your time. It's not like we were sitting around saying, wow, I've got 12 hours every day that I'm doing nothing. Why don't I try homeschooling? This is not reality. We are busy. No matter how old you are or how old your kids are, you have filled up your time, just like we fill up our space in a house. We just fill it up. The thing is, you have to cut something out. And it can be really tricky saying, well, I put everything in on purpose. I like the things that are in, or more likely, I cannot possibly imagine cutting anything out. So I want to give you a couple of questions to ask yourself to sort of weed things out and create space so that you can have time to do homeschool. First question. You got to look at the specific activities in your life and say, is this activity meeting an unmet need in me or in my kids? So you've got four different areas of your life that you have needs in. I don't know if you can see them up here. Physical, mental, spiritual, and social. These are the areas, and you really need to meet your needs in every single one of these areas. If you are not being challenged mentally, you're going to feel that. If you are not having enough social interaction with people, you will feel that lack and you will be off. So the first thing you're asking is this activity meeting one of those needs? If it is, it's got to stay. If it's not, or if something else is already meeting that need, then it's up for maybe kicking it out. Second question, Is it meeting some of my wants in these areas? Because you don't just meet your needs, let's say in physical. Let's say that your needs in physical are you need sleep, you need to eat healthy, you need to drink enough, and you need to exercise every day. If you're getting all of these needs met, you probably have some wants as well. That maybe you want to exercise in a specific way that takes a little bit more time to get to the gym or ride horses or whatever you do to exercise, then that's a want. But make sure that you get some wants done because you are not a machine. You have to have some wants met in every one of these areas. Third question, is this activity providing a buffer in each of these areas? You have to leave a little bit of space. You cannot run yourself so ragged physically that at the end of the day, you collapse. You have to leave a little bit of energy every single day in every area. You've got to have something left in your spiritual bucket. You have to have the ability, if somebody calls you at the end of the day and needs to talk to you, you need to leave enough in your bucket to be able to meet that, be able to talk to them and not feel like I'm so exhausted socially, I just can't take this anymore. So you need to leave a little bit of space in there. After you've looked at those three criteria and you think, well, no, it doesn't really do any of those things, it's sort of extra, it gets the axe. At this point, you've got to cut it out. You do not need this, whatever the activity is. And to be frank, it's probably going to be social media. That's the first thing that's going to get cut. But you may find that you need a little bit of social media to meet your social needs, or maybe you need a little bit of social media to have some downtime and create that buffer for you. Okay, work that in. I'm just saying, after you've met your needs and some of your wants and left a buffer, everything else gets cut. It's not a need, and it's not bringing you joy in the end. And so once you cut those out, you will find that you actually have space in your day that you can do all of this other stuff you need. True story, you may actually look at this list and say, I don't have more time in my day. You may have to look at your day and just start being a little savage and saying, I have to make a decision between two good options and choosing the option that is most important for your family at that point. But those 4 questions are a good place to get started. Choosing to subscribe helps me beat the YouTube algorithms. And I hope you enjoyed this video and join me for the next one. Thanks, bye.